Today, I'm excited to be joined by Kristo Langker, the other part, or the other half of the Friendlyjordies team.
Oh, not half. There's a lot. There's a lot more. Yeah.
Important part. In fact, often confused by judges between Jordan Shanks, and we'll get to the bottom of that mystery with a real Friendlyjordies stand-up, and many other mysteries. I must compliment you on your fashion in the beginning, Sergio Tacchini.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was. I just bought it.
He was an 80s fashion label. I was quite a big fan because John McEnroe, who you don't know, was like the Nick Kyrgios of his day. And being the contrary person that I was, I used to cheer for him. And there you go, I hadn't seen it since.
Yeah, I can't hit a tennis ball to save a life.
How did you come to be working at Friendlyjordies?
Jordan's a very nice guy, and I was probably a very annoying teenager, and I gave him a script and asked to do work experience, and I did work experience with him, and he was,
Did he pay you?
No, but it was for school. It was for school. He did eventually, very much so. But no, it was like I was like wasting his time,
That's very
so
good.
He did very soon. Yeah. So.
And you went from there.
Yeah.
And you're a fair way. You still obviously do comedy. And one of the things that I've always said about you guys is that you have been incredibly powerful because people watch it. 600,000 viewers. My 300 per video is a long way behind that.
It'll get up there.
And it's a big achievement because you do actually, people like you are getting the truth out there. But you've become under a little bit more in the public eye over your run-ins with the law. So tell us about the time you almost got shot by the whoever they were, the Fixated Persons Unit.
Yeah. Oh, what do you want to know?
Well, how did that even happen?
How did it look? Lawyers are still trying to figure it out. I mean, New South Wales Parliament, had a go at trying to figure out how it happened, and apparently the cops don't really know. Essentially, we had a strike force on us.
Yeah.
We had a secret strike force.
This is very even weird. Before they came around.
Yeah. So the thing about it that's so weird is when I was arrested and when I spent, I don't know, up until midnight in the cell, and I thought, oh, okay, the cops are just going to let me out and they won't charge me. But then they charged me, and then they kind of dug their heels in and charged me with 4. They particularized the charges to make it 4 charges, which originally they were just 2. And they kept digging their heels, and I was going, why are they doing this? I thought it was very obvious at the time. They bungled an arrest. They went off a lie. They went off. You'd look at the brief of evidence and the statements in it, and they're just horseshit.
You were harassing or some sort of dangerous behaviour.
Not even that. Just like the physical. There's maps in it. I don't know how much I can say, but I'm so over it. I want to say it.
We're not trying to rerun that case.
But I want to say it. There's maps in it that show that are written from witnesses saying where I came from that are just the opposite from what the CCTV shows, So
they lied when they could have told the truth.
Well, yeah, witnesses, and it was, and that's why they eventually dropped the charges. But the thing is, we kept pulling at this string and going, why are they doing this? And we eventually found out they wanted to we don't know if they got warrants, but they went to get warrants to put surveillance on us. We're still trying to figure out what type of surveillance. They had a dedicated strike force on me and Jordan with a name. It had a really
So we've got gangs murdering each other in Western Sydney. We've got corruption all the way through Parliament, and they've got a strike force on some YouTubers.
It's a bit of an honour, isn't it?
Exactly. If you don't, you're not someone until you've got a strike force.
Yeah.
I've got a strike force against me, and it had some.
Has it got a good name?
No, it had a bad name. And
yeah,
I was wondering whether they'd given me some sort of.
You get Strike Force Cobra or something.
Strike Force. Iron Fist.
Even McBride is kind of badass. It's got that Irish kind of.
No, it was something like Lindisfarne or something.
Oh, we got Wyargen. It was really lame.
I don't know where they.
Fixated Persons Unit was better.
The Fixated Persons Unit was I think started after the Lint Cafe siege or something. It was meant to be for very serious threats to the public. And the idea that they were sicked on you And it turns out, I think there's so much poetic justice because Barilaro has only gone down to fall from grace. Now, I know you don't claim credit for that, which is very modest.
Can you claim credit for, someone tripping over?
As we said with Mark Davis, though, who was here, my last guest, you're well-resourced, clever guy. Think of how many people the cops have shot or whatever, ruined their lives, who were in a similar position to you in the sense that it was totally unjustified, someone with a grudge. I mean, that's the scary thing.
I know. It's just, it's pretty unfair, how lucky I am. Even just discarding all the other way worse instances of bureaucratic fuck-ups by the police.
Yeah.
I mean, just in that unit, there are so many instances where there are people who are they're on the edge and they are delusional and they are, they don't have that, they are in need, they are, maybe at risk. But to send a police unit with, you've seen the people who are in that unit with that type of character.
And the thing about it was, it was clear to me, you were guilty, before, they'd got their orders from the politician and they weren't out there to find out, the truth. They were there to harass you because that's what the politician wanted.
Documents from that were in December, December 2020, they show Mick Fuller's chief of staff, Jason Weinstein, who's meant to be in charge of looking after, stopping the Alameddines, but he's busy on other shit. Strikeforce Raptor, he was saying, are we looking at charging Jordan? They're trying to explore a charge to give Jordan. This is before Jordan's even met
sickness.
John in person.
Yeah. That's why I was attracted to you from the beginning. It's the same sickness that I saw in the Defence Force, that we saw in the ATO.
Ours is a lot more trivial. Yours is.
It's not trivial in the sense that you've got people who should be working for the good of the community are actually working totally for the politicians because that's who gives them the promotion or whatever, and they can't say no. I mean, those guys should have said no. We're not going to do a strike force on some YouTubers. Maybe you need to harden up.
And it was in the emails that we got, it clearly indicated they knew there was no threat. They were saying it, there's no threat. It was just this kind of, we got to do it, I don't know, run through the motions. But, I'm saying it's trivial in comparison to what happens to a lot, we're just a very public, interesting case. But,
a lot more good will come from it. And you can only think of, the people, disadvantaged people, Indigenous, whatever, who say, nothing. We were harassed, this wasn't what it looked like, you can really feel
it's not filmed, there's no resources to fight it,
And ends up, dying in custody. I mean, not that I'm a fan of the police, the AF, I always say this, I believe in the rule of law, and if I've committed a crime, I'm happy to go to jail. And the AFP, in my case, treated me very fairly. So I'm not about bashing the police as a whole. I think they have a very hard job in investigating, going to car crashes and pulling out 3-year-olds, and then having to go and then going to do domestic violence after that, and having to write up the paperwork. It's a very hard job.
Yeah.
And no wonder they have a siege mentality. And that was wrong. I mean, things like that, what happened in your case, was wrong. And especially in a squad fixated persons unit, that brings them all down. You reckon that I don't know what you felt in prison, but you do worry about your family because you can't protect them. You can't do anything.
Because I don't know, that's the thing that gives me the shits the most. That cop was really violent towards
your mum.
My mum and girlfriend.
Yeah, and that was confronting for them.
And they're not the ones pissing off Barilaro. They're just, I feel so bad for them because I just, And
that's right. And they would have made things up. And again, you can only think of the other people in the past have had these types of situations where some bystander gets shot, family member, and then the cops say, they pulled a gun or they did something like that, and how frustrating it would be. So it's a fantastic test case. Anyway, you won that one.
Oh, I'll tell you what they did in the station. I want to get this on record because it's kind of interesting. Because they didn't have the footage and they didn't have any evidence on what they were going off Barilaro saying that, a chain of people working under Barilaro because no one says shit directly anymore. That, I was at a funeral and I was following him for ages,
Just making it all up.
Yeah.
And putting sauce on the mustard, yeah.
And they didn't have anything, so they said, we'll keep you overnight, we'll keep you in, and we'll refuse you bail unless you give us the footage of what happened.
That's funny.
And so Mark's really good, and he's your lawyer. We share the same lawyer. He was just he was going, no, keep him if you want,
Nice.
Which they ended up having to come up with some evidence without having, so they made a whole bunch of shit up essentially.
It's lucky I think they could have kept you for 2 weeks under some sort of terrorist laws.
They could have medicated me actually under the, but I think they.
It's good to have Mark there. That's right, because he's the perfect person for that. He understands the media, that's when he is good. He wouldn't have taken any shit. And that was very embarrassing for them. People will remember whether anything ever happens to the most famous Sergeant McQueen, whatever he is now, Constable McQueen. People remember what happened to you and what happened, and it's a very bad look for the police force. So, but then it didn't stop there. and even though you were kind of arrested as a result of really Jordan's posts, there's some sort of poetic justice, and now Jordan has to face court as a result of an interview you did.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
I don't know how much I can say because it's before the courts, but Clubs New South Wales, the story about, if you don't know much about Troy Stolz, he was a former employee of Clubs New South Wales, and his job was to check their venues' compliance with anti-money laundering laws, to check if they're checking on the people putting the money through the pokies.
Yeah, that was his job.
Yeah, compliance wasn't great, so he gave some documents to Andrew Wilkie and some journalists and said, look, the clubs are kind of letting this shit
Doing
happen.
his job.
Yeah, he did something very noble and, important, and that's probably what kick-started all this media about
and you interviewed him.
Yeah, then.
This was your term in front of the camera.
Well, Jordan was busy, so. And now Jordan and Troy are facing criminal contempt charges, not brought about by the DPP, not brought about by police. These are criminal charges on an application from Clubs New South Wales, the gambling lobby.
I think it's great. I mean,
it's like the mob prosecuting someone, isn't it?
It's the same. I want to be able to prosecute General David Hurley. You can do it, can you? You can run some sort of private criminal prosecution.
You can run. This isn't even done like that, but you can run a private. I think it's not done the same way, but you can run a private prosecution. But generally, the DPP will pick it up and drop the charges if it gets serious or something like that.
Maybe we'll have to give it a GoFundMe. We can start running some private criminal prosecutions against
very cutting edge law stuff.
Scott Morrison, General Hurley. We might have a few. I think people would be throwing money.
Yeah. It'd be very interesting.
And see how they like it.
I
didn't. I must admit, I was looking at the law books about it, but it just seemed like a relatively expensive and difficult process. And that's one of the things I found in my own case, because there was no right of appeal. When I complained internally in the Defence Force, and they downed me, and I knew they would, there was no right of appeal. I couldn't even say it wasn't even handled according to legal principles. I couldn't even have an administrative appeal. There was just no right of appeal.
Done.
Yeah. And even when I wrote to the Attorney Generals to get a second opinion, what they did is they sent my letter back to Defence and said, we're not, deal with this idiot.
Surely there's a flaw if they're going so hard after you, there's a flaw in the system if they make it, basically it was your only option to do, in a sense.
Yeah, there's a real
to
flaw.
Blow the whistle.
And they even passed a law, in 2013 to say, it's possible to go to the media in certain circumstances. Yeah, that's right. We need to fix the system, not just this one particular case, and that's why I don't want the charges dropped particularly, because it won't solve anything. And this is one of the problems with Bernard Caleri's case, and the charges have been dropped. But
there's a big
we haven't
airing
looked
of
into
shit that happens
Downer's
in
action.
court.
We haven't looked into whether our spies are allowed to commit murder and no one can complain about it. I mean, there's some big questions.
I mean, that's what happens when someone, who's a bit impulsive, like a government, or you wouldn't expect a government agency to be impulsive, but they rush you into court, and then it ends up more shit comes out about them because they got the onus of giving you discovery and stuff.
And somebody, one of the senior public servants in defence said that about my case. I think to say you lose control of it once it's with the police, but that's too bad. What do you expect? And that is quite good that they do lose control because I mean, as you said, that if it is based on shonky evidence or revenge, that will come out by the prosecution. That's what
it should
in my case.
And I think
it should exactly.
And the courts in Australia are still good.
I do think the judge. I do have the faith in the judiciary.
We're not like other countries where there's no hope.
Right. And and it's a bit like a sinking island where the water's raising or a ship. The judiciary in this country is the last thing that hasn't been covered yet. I mean, all the senior public servants have been bought out. Military, police, they're all appointed by politicians. This is one of the things that even if we do have a whistleblower agency,
it'll act like LEC or something, a lot of
who are they going to appoint? You can imagine if they appoint some former, Labor, some political guy. It's not going to really be much good. You saw that in the Barilaro trade job scandal. I mean, the public servants were just folded. They were told that he's going to get the job, and he got the job, and they rewrote the job. Even rewrote his interview performance, and no one was like, you can't do that. What about you sack the person who you're told was going to get the job? They just did it, and that's pretty typical across the public service.
But what's amazing is the even with all the resources of New South Wales Parliament and the media essentially working in tandem for months, there's still so many questions about it, Like if that was one of the most widely politicised New South Wales political scandals, really, and people still don't really know what happened. People still don't know what Barilaro's role in it was entirely.
Really, I don't understand that. Even my case, you meet people, and they're the educated people, and they're who have good jobs and have never even heard of me. So it's amazing how.
But it's not even that. It's more that the process. It's still a process that's been hidden on how he actually did get.
Well, Stuart Ayres has gone back and has been cleared.
Because the scope was so fucking
exactly.
Of that.
But I mean, he was obviously was definitely, and what is funny about what came out of it is that they didn't even think they'd done anything wrong. Like Berejiklian saying, pork barrelling is fine, it's what we all do. And she would have, believed it. And there were plenty of people that believed it as well.
Well, there are just systems that are that are just not accountable. Like people, you know what I mean? People feel comfortable lying in front of Parliament, even though you're technically not allowed to do it. People feel really comfortable because there's not consequences. No one's going to be held in contempt of Parliament. Doesn't happen. But people are uncomfortable lying in a court, I don't know. But it just feels, and so, I don't know, it seems like, a lot of the shit that happens is like with that trade scandal is it's wrong, but there's not really ever, usually there's no consequences. The
biggest consequence, he didn't get the job. He didn't go to jail.
I don't know, he's suffering a lot apparently.
He's got a lot of mental torment.
A lot of people are,
You did a fair bit on that story. I know you don't like to take credit, and you probably don't want to talk about it too much, but I was very impressed with your investigative journalism skills in that regard. I'm not just, trade, but the job. The Coronation building. And
thank you.
And there was,
it's not really... It's not that investigative when these guys boast about what they do.
I know,
in rap videos.
Maybe you're just brave enough to run the truth, but it wasn't on the front page of the Australian, and I don't believe.
Front page of SMH, they did it.
They did a good job. But did they pick it up after you?
No, they did. They did a good job. SMH.
Well, SMH, we do give them credit in that regard. They have done a good job on state politics, and. So yeah, credit where credit's due. But you've done a few quite big stories. You did the story about the car dealer in Queensland, and allegedly a bit of white powder going up people's noses, and boasting about being the next Prime Minister of Australia. I saw that one. The prayer room, that was a pretty good story, something close to home.
Yeah.
And again, that wasn't really picked up on, which I think was wrong, not because it was anything, homophobic or something, but because it was national security. These people were meant to be in charge of defend. These are the same people who are
prosecuting you for breach of
trying
security.
to put me in jail forever. When clearly I did not damage a national security, and clearly they didn't give a shit about that.
And it was also the way they went. The story was the way they went after Tom, the whistleblower,
of course.
who they raided his house because they suspected he might have damaging information. I think, which is just that's not what the AFP should be doing.
No. So what next?
What
You're a pretty
next?
good researcher. I don't
know.
You won't be able to reveal them on cameras, but I was pretty impressed about how you get information out of people, particularly people who are meant to be smart. And you might have to have your own show one day. Is there a little bit of jealousy? Does Jordan a bit worried that you're going to take the crown?
No. I can't. You see me in front of camera. I can't fucking.
It reminds me of that Simpsons episode where Homer eats the donut and clubs prosecute him for contempt. That's a good one.
Say like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. We'll use the legal fund, so you don't need any more money, Jordan. So it's okay. We'll use the legal fund that we already have. We're not Avi Yemeni. And
it's a real skill what Jordan does. You know what I mean?
I know. He's very good.
But you know what I mean? Like you put. Everyone goes, like it's what Mark Davis was saying, our lawyer. He's going, everyone thinks, just in front of camera. You stand in front of camera, most people freeze up, it's kind of uncomfortable.
Being a stand-up comedian is extremely good training. No, not surprising, a lot of them become successful actors. It's pretty hard, and it's a hard role. Not everyone can, we're a tiny percentage of people can do it.
Yeah.
I get up there with some pretty crappy jokes and still, do it and get people winning. Not the experts, but when you start off.
He's got horror stories from that.
That's when it's really hard. Sure, once you're a name, it's easy. But when you're beginning.
But even in a room, like privately, there's a skill in being relaxed in front of a camera. There's something about not being in your head and stuff like that. And Jordan really has that, and it makes it, easier to film than it, very difficult to film.
I enjoyed, doing the interview with him. I love watching him, whatever he's on. And he's been a big supporter. So it's, and you have obviously, it's hard to know. Even the courts don't know who's who. But you're, I'm looking forward to you seeing.
Jordan's the handsome model.
But they call him that sometimes, don't they? Former male model.
Former male model. What else is there?
And they get
YouTuber? No, what do they call him?
His full name.
Oh, Markovino.
No, Markovino. Shanks Markovino. And so that is.
They always call him something. I don't know. We had a joke about it, but I forgot what it is.
Male
commentator. I don't know.
Commentator.
I don't like saying Friendlyjordies that much. Drives traffic, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, isn't it? You have shaken up the case.
Controversial. That's it. Controversial commentator. I don't know.
As years go on, he'll be like, much loved. Things will sort of slowly.
I don't know.
I think he'll always be controversial.
Maybe with the people that like to write about him.
I always love it when I see Geordies on the screen saying, I've got this letter from such and such lawyers, cease and desist, well, I'm not going to, I'll rip it up, whatever he does. That's music to my ears when I see people do that. And that they don't care, because it does worry you a little bit. It does get to you, and you've got legal costs, living costs. And when you see somebody else who says, fuck you, I'm not going to bow down with a threat from a legal letter, it gives you, together we are strong, like a union. So, I love seeing your work and his work, and it gives me a lot of strength, I have to say. Yeah, because it is, it is hard sometimes, and to see that you're not alone, and to see that other people believe in what you believe in and prepared to stand up, I think it's really great, and momentum has changed. When I did the interview with Jordan, it's good to have you on the show because you're the younger generation, and that's very important.
I'm the less experienced, less experienced. I don't know shit. I don't know. No, I don't know.
I mean, obviously, you're the people who are going to save the world.
I don't know about that.
And you care about it, and you got the viewers, and it's terrific. Doing those kind of exposés can be, you tick a lot of boxes, you help people. It is quite exciting, and it can be made. It can be fun as well. You guys have shown you can have a bit of humour in it as well. Make it watchable. It doesn't have to be that dun 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 music that you see on the ABC. Dun dun dun. This is the villain. We're about to tell you something bad. Dun dun dun. Put them bad.
What I don't get is like the fucking 20 minutes of stock footage that's in every one of those. Like they're really good stories. Like there are really good stories, but like. There's the format of it's so weird. There's like always like starts with just stock music and stock footage, and it's just, why just cut it out? It's filling up. I guess they have to fill up time.
It's the
and we just put in
do it, but it's quite
tasteless jokes instead.
Yeah, well, you guys get away, and you still get the message across, and I guess things like that will change in your time, and maybe on the streaming services like Netflix and whatever, because you've got an audience who want to see more sophisticated stuff, and you don't have to pander to the network, which has
you're being too kind to us. I don't know if we're
25 minutes. Well, maybe. No, I know. I think you do. I think you, as I said, you can change the world with laughter, and people have tried. You see, all the information about what's wrong in the world is already out there. But just getting people to watch it and care, that's the struggle. A lot of people just don't like what they might consider troublemakers, or some do, or some, have got some people that support you. You realise also have just got to, they hate everything about the government, and so they just go on the bandwagon because you're against the government. And you can see that's wrong as well. And if you're just totally one way, you're not really your supporter. You just,
it takes a level of disillusionment, or something that happened to get when people get to that stage,
It's a slow process, and as I said, I believe I need a trial. Like in your cases, had you not had a trial, had you not had Mark, and they just killed you, in the cell or something. He died by misadventure, say. They would have read the report and said he was probably a troublemaker. He was probably, like a lot of the Indigenous people are dying. You kind of think, you read it and think, I bet there's more, I bet they didn't help themselves or whatever. And that's what it was. Luckily for you that you people could see that you were a decent person, and the story was overblown, and we were lucky we were able to paint the full picture, that they, brutalised your mother and your girlfriend, and you managed to paint that full picture, and that is really powerful. I think that happened in the 70s with the police. It happened in South Africa. You start to get the sort of middle of the road people start to question authority a little bit, and so cases like yours are quite important because they can see that the police are in the wrong.
It's scary what they do to other people who don't have the resources and don't have the the public sympathy as well.
Too young for the Blue murder thing, but I think. And
I know Blue. What Roger Rogerson
and Nanny Smith, and there was some Sally Ann Huckstep, I think her name was. She was a sex worker.
This is real. This is not something that I have made up in revenge or in anger. This is just cold, bare fact.
Who was going to give evidence against them? They just took her to Centennial Park, or I think drowned her in Centennial Park.
And Juanita Nelson, and that was all.
Juanita Nelson, it was pretty, and there's a Brisbane equivalent too, which is the Herald are doing stories on.
Oh, recently,
Just say that.
I thought you were going to say back in the Moonlight State days of Bjorky Peterson.
Well, this was, I think, the Moonlight State, and then but they're just coming out now. They didn't get compensated, but the girls that run the massage parlours, and some of them gave evidence against the cops, and then they were either murdered or in witness protection. And it's scary, and they deserve to be looked after, when they didn't get compensation, That's a very brave thing to do, as you said, to take on people like that who, especially as you said, if you're marginalised, if you're a sex worker.
You don't have any resources.
No, exactly, and the cops are against you. You've got fuck all chance of surviving. Or let alone getting someone believing your side of the story, And they said that one of them seemed to have just given herself a fatal overdose. They gave her the drugs and said basically, get a child or something, and they said, you're either going to take this fatal overdose tonight or we're going to kill you tomorrow. And she took the fatal overdose,
Jesus Christ.
Because she was so sure that there was no other way out, And that's the sort of state it's in. So, I mean, even though you say your case is, it isn't one of those cases, but we can help people like that in the future by your case, because we're able to show that not everything is as the police say. I want to thank you for everything you've done. It's really, people like you will save the world, because you will. I don't know. You bring truth, and it may not be the biggest case in the world, but it's a chink in the armour. It's the snowflakes falling. That's what gets us through, and people watch you, which is important. So keep it up.
Oh, thank you very much.
And we'll go boxing and
keep your case. I don't know. I want to ask you more about your case. It's far more interesting,
Well, I mean, about my case, and you'll be down there soon. It'll be good to have you in support, I guess. Thank you very much, Kristo, for coming in.
Thank you.
I'll see you down in the Canberra courthouse in 5 weeks' time. And if anyone's down in Canberra, Goulburn, please come along 27th of October for the first day of the trial, and we'll all go out for dinner in Canberra. Kristo, Jordan's paying.
I'll try to get Jordan to come. He'll be there. We'll be there in spirit.
You're keeping fit. You and I are going to do a bit of boxing in the future. We're almost exactly the same weight division. You're a little bit lighter.
Yeah, I'll get my head pummeled in. You're looking
We're going to
much
practice
stronger.
on the bag.